Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you again for joining us this week's installment of our Entrepreneurial Corner. My name is Phumzile Njoko, the co-founder of NS Business School. I am, of course, always with my partner Spongile Shongwe. She will do her intro now. Yes, did you see the peace sign? Yes, we come in peace. Today's topic, as you would have seen in the posters, we are talking about branding. A very important topic because it's one of those topics that can be quickly and seriously misunderstood. Today we're really focusing on the branding for entrepreneurs. So I can't wait to deep dive into this topic. Mayo Febi is joining us today. And she will be taking us through this important topic. Mayo is a coach, one of those multi-hyphenated women, I call them. She's a coach, she's a speaker, she's a facilitator, and what else am I leaving out? But she will do a deep dive introduction on what she does, the spaces that she works in. So yeah, Sibongile, do your quick intro and then we'll hand it over to Mayo before we kick off.
Yeah, as Phumzile has already done and introduced me, partly I'm Sibongile Shongwe, co-founder of NS Business School, and I'm looking forward, Mayo, to this one. As you know, we've had some discussions on this, so I'm really interested in this one because it affects, I think, a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot on the female side, but quite a lot, I think, of entrepreneurs because of that fine line that I spoke about of being maybe pompous or so aggressive and stuff in terms of branding. So really looking forward to it. Thank you, Phumzile.
Good. Mayo, tell us a little bit about yourself. As I said, you are one of those multi-hyphenated capabilities. So let's hear really, who is Mayo? What does she do? Which industries does she work in before we get into the business of today?
I love the word that you used, multi-hyphenated. I'm going through my dictionary in my head. I'm like, it must mean I do a lot of things, right?
Yeah. And it's usually used a lot. We were talking about it last week. It's usually used a lot in the arts. You know, you'll find that, you know, I'm a writer, I'm a poet, I'm an actor, etc. But it's something that is not, you know, usually used in the what I call hardcore technical spaces. You know, one will call themselves just an engineer, or I'm just an accountant. But we are finding that is changing, especially now with COVID, and just people are just becoming more self-aware. You know, as I've said before we started, that people are, you know, as an individual or as a person, you are actually multi-layered. You are multi-talented. And now people have realized that I can actually leverage on my different talents. I'm not just an accountant. I'm not just the left brainer. I also have my right brain. I can write. I can paint. I can bake. I can this and I can that. And I can actually take all of those things. They're not just hobbies. I can actually monetize them, and I can actually own those titles.
No, wonderful. I'm going to use that word going forward when I introduce myself. Well, first up, thanks very much for inviting me to be with you today. It really is such an honor and such a privilege. And I never take any speaking engagement or opportunity to talk to anyone lightly, because you just never know how you're going to impact somebody's life. In a nutshell, what I do is I help individuals, teams, and organizations understand themselves better. And I help them get more out of themselves and drive a culture of self-accountability. And I do this primarily through one-on-one coaching, group coaching, facilitating, and also helping organizations come up with a plan that will help the individuals within it reach their goals in terms of personal development and them becoming more of who they want to be, essentially. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
Right. Yeah, no, it sounds very interesting. And how long have you been in the space?
I want to say all my life, but that's going to sound corny, right? But I started out my career in PR and communications, and something that I've always naturally gravitated to, hence I say all my life, is helping people find solutions, helping people move forward. And I've been doing coaching formally for the past 7 years, but prior to that, I've always been a coach at heart in terms of how I engage and how I interact with people. So it was wonderful to find a profession that actually speaks to who I am.
So when you transitioned into the coaching, did you feel this is a new thing? Did you start from scratch? We were talking about it before we went live, that it's different for who you think you are as a brand when you're working for a corporation, and who you think you are as a brand when you are now doing this thing in your own business as an entrepreneur. How was that transition for you?
It was hard. Oh, it was so hard. Because there's so many brands out there. There's so many people doing so many things. And you have to sit and ask yourself, what makes me stand out? And because, like you said before we came online, we're used to having a buffer. We're used to representing an organization. I now had to put myself out there and know and believe that I have what it takes. Understand that even though I'm stepping into a new space, what I have within me is of value to somebody out there. So working on building that belief was the hardest part, in that I can be on par with another coach out there who's been coaching for 20, 30 years. Now here I am starting, who do I think I am? So building up myself internally, that mental, that inner work was the hardest part. But in terms of the pieces of putting a brand together, once the inner work was done, then it was much, much easier.
No, I can completely attest to that, as we were talking earlier, that it is the inner work, because you have to go through, it's an iterative process. You go through different stages of who am I, what value can I offer, and what am I good at, etc., etc. But it's not just naming those things, it's actually internalizing them and owning them. To me, that was the biggest thing. As I said to you, you start and you're like, but you are called an accountant, but you are called a supply chain official. But you then don't understand that you are actually more than that. If there's a project that says we need someone who can project manage, you're like, no, but I'm a supply chain person. But later you realize, but I've been project managing for the past 20 years. I can actually do this thing. Coaching, for example, when I started, I was like, oh, this maybe it's a new thing. But actually, leadership, when you lead organizations and when you lead teams, you coach. You cannot separate the two. You cannot separate the two. So it had to come to me that, in fact, I've been coaching for the past 20 odd years.
There you go, for your life.
Within a corporate setting. So that to me is a good segue to get into that branding that we're talking about, to say now, okay, so who do you call yourself now? Who are you as a brand? Now that you don't have this big corporate wave that carries you, you are now on your own, you are an entrepreneur. So now, how do you then frame yourself? How do you create a container that makes sense to you? Because it has to make sense to you first. And then how do you then start communicating that? And so that's what I wanted us to really talk about, that, quickly when we talk about branding, people quickly start thinking, what's your logo? Where's your website? And. But it needs to start with you, because all of that comes out then into how you then set up your website. How do you then set up your logos? How do you dress in public, etc., etc.? But those are external. It starts really, really within yourself. And I think that's why when I heard you present at some conference, your approach into branding was talking to that. For the first time in my head, I thought, here's someone who actually approaches branding the way I like for it to be approached. And so that's why I thought maybe come and talk to us today. So I know you have a short presentation, so we're going to be engaging you as you are moving through your presentation.
Awesome.
And then because we don't like for you to just talk at us, we like to engage as we move along. And then after your short presentation, we can then go into deeper conversations and see if we've got any questions from any of the audience, right?
Okay, perfect.
Share your screen.
Let me just do that.
And yeah, welcome to our audience out there. We know some are on YouTube and Facebook, so please do post your questions. And while you're on Zoom, you can post them on the chat box there, which you will be directed to. Mayo will be very happy to answer those questions for us.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, very warm welcome to everybody out there in cyberspace. And I truly hope you're going to get something of value out of this. My aim is to give you the pieces that you need to put a personal brand together. And it's interesting, Pumzile, that you said you saw me speak at another event and you said, okay, I also want that to be introduced to my audience. So that journey actually started out as a full day workshop. So what I'm presenting here is actually a full day workshop. And where you saw me, Pumzile, I was told, Mayo, we like your full day workshop, but we just don't have a full day. Please cut it down to 30 minutes. So I'm like, okay, cool. I trimmed it down. And then Pumzile came along and said, I like your presentation, but please keep it 15 minutes. I'm learning from this, ladies and gentlemen, is that at some point someone is going to say, just stand up for 5 minutes. Tell us what it is this personal branding is. Yeah. And when it comes to you as the individual listening, you have to now be able to talk about yourself within 1 minute. If somebody says, tell us what you do to sell yourself. So as I say, this is information that's been compressed. And of course, I'm open to doing full day workshops, depending on where you are, half a day, 1 hour, etc., etc. But I want to encourage each and every one of you to take notes as much as you can. Make highlights of the things that are standing out for you, the things that you want to go and research so that you get the most value out of it. So as you have guessed, today, ladies and gentlemen, is a story all about you, and it's starring you. So don't be shy to put yourself in the spotlight. And I was chatting with Svongile earlier on, and we were talking about how sometimes for women, it's so much more difficult to put yourself out there compared to our male counterparts. So please, 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 today is about you. Before I get into any introductions about myself, I'll share a little bit more about what I do. I'd like you to please Google yourself. Type in your name and your surname. I know some of us have multiple screens, but if you're tuned in on your phone, please open another window, type in your name and your surname on Google. I'll give you 10 seconds to do that, okay? Have we done that? Your name and your surname onto Google, and let's see what it is that Google comes up with. All right, so by now you should be getting some results. And I want to ask you, how do you feel about the information you found? How do you feel about what Google is saying to you about your name and your surname? And please type in the chat if you're on the Zoom call. And if you're joining us through YouTube and other platforms, please type in the chat about how you feel about the information that you have found about yourself based on what Google is sharing with you. Pumzile, perhaps you can just share briefly. How do you feel about the information you found on Google about yourself?
Hey, it's quite bland. There's nothing much.
It's quite bland.
Yeah, so it really just, it talks about, it actually, the first one, it links me back to my LinkedIn profile. But there's nothing, because then I Googled other people, they like everywhere. They like, they do this, they do that, and that, and that. So, and then I went back to my profile and I thought, okay, there's a lot of work there that needs to be done still. So yeah, it's quite bland and very timid. And it doesn't really say much about me as a brand. Yeah.
So I suppose that's triggered a whole thought process now to yourself, like, okay, what do I actually need to do going forward? I'd also like to ask Sia. I see Sia, you're on the call here with us on Zoom. If you could please share how you feel about the information that you found. Sia Skosana.
I just found I think school-related things, honestly, mostly related to sports.
Oh, okay.
Sports I did, yeah. So he's saying mostly related to sports I did throughout primary and high school.
Okay.
Yeah, we also have young audiences as well who, so Sia is just,
And it's good, right? Because it gives them, the young people, it gives you an opportunity to start crafting that brand when you're young. Because some of us, we only started working on our brand in our 30s and our 40s. So for you, you're young now and you can actively decide for yourself, Sia, what is it that I want my brand to represent? What kind of information do I want to be there about me out there? All right. So my personal brand story began at the age of 18. This is when I started actively thinking about who I am and what it is that I want to represent. And this is a picture of me here holding my baby.
Is that you?
Yes. I actually look younger now, right? Well, I feel younger anyway. I feel much, much younger than I do at the moment. And this was it was a very difficult time in my life because I was 18 years old, just had a baby, and it was difficult because a lot of people were very disappointed in me, which is to be expected, right? And a lot of the comments that came, you're damaged goods, you'll never amount to anything, how could you do this? Your life is over. And I remember one night I cried so hard. I was lying on my bed, looking up to the ceiling, crying and crying as I was holding my baby on my chest. And it got to a point where I cried so hard that the tears dried up. And then a voice rose up within me and said, watch me succeed. One day I'm going to make something out of my life. One day I'm going to impact people. Watch me. And from that moment up until now, there are three things that I've learned in life. And there are three principles that I live by every day. Number one, you only get out of life what you put into it. So if you get a mango seed and you plant it into the ground, guess what's going to grow eventually? A mango tree, right? There's no secret formula. It doesn't matter your spiritual, philosophical beliefs. This is a universal principle that whatever you plant is what you'll get. Whatever you sow is what you'll reap. Number two, I've learned that there are very few things that can resist a human will. When you commit to something and you say, I'll do it or die, there are very few things that can stand in your way. And the more we build up our passion, our fire, our power to want to go for something, the more likely we are to do it. Number three, I've learned that there's a golden thread that runs throughout our lives. And I promise you, if you look on your life, you'll see that the one situation led you to the next one, to the next experience, to the next one. So everything is connected. Nothing happens by chance. And you have been led to this moment right now because of all the other things that happened in your life to bring you to this moment.
That's so important. That is so very important that, people realize that the step or the decision I make or not make is definitely going to be informing my tomorrow, one way or the other. One way or the other. It's very, very important but we'll come back to it later. Okay?
Okay, no problem. So what is a personal brand? I have a nice scientific definition that I pulled from personalbrand.com. And to simplify it for all of us, a personal brand is simply a formalization of who you are and a communicating of that formalization of who you are. I think that's the easiest way that I can put it. So you're not out there trying to become something that you're not. You're not out there trying to put on a mask, trying to pretend, trying to appeal to somebody who you think you need to become something else for them. No, 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 no. A personal brand is simply packaging yourself, pulling the pieces together and formalizing who you already are. And the pieces of building a personal brand, as you'll see on the screen, it's your experience, your expertise, your competencies, your personality, your reputation, and finally, your achievements. So how do you bring all of these things together to package yourself and create a personal brand that speaks to who you authentically are? First up is your experience. I'd like to encourage you to make a note of your experience as I go through this presentation, as I said earlier. What kind of experience do you have? And don't limit it to, I have a degree, or I have matric, or I worked in an organization for 10 years. Don't limit it only to your professional life. Think of yourself holistically. What experiences have you had that have changed the trajectory of your life? What experiences stand out for you when you look back on your life? So do not limit it, because everything, as I said, links together to make us the people that we are today. What do you have expertise in? What do you have a body of knowledge in that you've perhaps studied, or perhaps you have a personal interest, you've done your own self-study? What are those things that you would say you're an expert in? And again, don't limit it to a professional context. Think of yourself as a multifaceted individual. And Phumzile, you were speaking to this earlier when you were saying that we like to think of ourselves in boxes, that I can only do this or I can only do that. And I think a lot of that comes from how our brains are channeled from the time we're children. We're told that you need to follow a career path. You need to be only this or be only that. But when you grow up, you actually discover that there's lots of things that you have an interest in. There's lots of things that we have expertise in. So make a note of your expertise. Reputation. Whether you like it or not, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, whether you consider yourself popular or you're not popular, you have a reputation. And a reputation is essentially a collective view that people have about you. And in your family, for instance, to bring it home, you might be known as the one that is the no-nonsense person, the one that people go to when there's a crisis in the family. That's the reputation that you have. Or perhaps you might be the money bags in your family. You're that person that whenever somebody needs money, whether it's for school or for groceries at home, you're the go-to person. That's the reputation that you have. So think about yourself broadly again. What kind of messages do you think are generally accepted about you? Make a note of that. Personality is an interesting one. What would you say is your personality? What are the traits that you display everywhere that you go? Who are you, essentially? Competencies. Now, this is very similar to expertise. It's a fine line between expertise and competencies, but competencies refers to the things that you can actually do well. So you may intellectually be an expert in something, but not necessarily be able to do it well. But most of the time, we are competent at the things that we're experts in. But to differentiate, let me give you the example of soccer analysts, for instance. For those of you that watch soccer, you'll see that there's often a panel of speakers and a presenter who's highly, highly, highly knowledgeable about the game of soccer. They're an expert in soccer, right? But they don't necessarily play soccer, okay? So they don't have the competence to play soccer, though they have the body of knowledge about what soccer is all about. So when you look at your competencies, what are the things that you're really, really, really good at? The things that you could do all day, every day, even if nobody was paying you, you'd love to do those things. What are those things? And finally, your achievements. We were chatting with Spongile earlier on before we came online about how it's much easier for men to talk about their achievements than it is for women. And I was reading an article, I think it was in Harvard Business Review or Forbes, I can't remember. But in that report, they were saying that men, more often than not, outshine women in an interview because women are uncomfortable to talk about the things that they've done. So you have men that are going for the same job as the women. They'll be equally qualified. In some instances, the women are even more qualified, okay? But when it comes down to the interview, the women are unable to communicate about themselves in a way that is confident, that is attractive, that is reassuring to the organization that this really is the right person for the position. So what are your achievements when you look at yourself? What would you say you've achieved in your life? And again, don't limit it to degrees and certificates. Look at your life broadly. What are the things you've done in your community, things you've done in your family? What are the things that when you look back on your life, you say, I did that. Wow, I'm proud of myself. Make a note of those things, because all of these things, again, feed into your personal brand. These are the building blocks. So by now, you should have a wonderful list of things, hopefully. If you haven't done it, it's okay, but please take the time to do it afterwards. So you should have all these pieces in your mind, at least, of the things that comprise a personal brand. And with these things, they should lead you now to craft what we call a personal brand statement. So this is essentially your unique selling proposition. These are the things that when you share about yourself, they're what will compel people to want to engage you further. And as you write your personal brand statement, I don't want you to feel like you have to get it right the first time, right? Because this is something that you draft, you make a few notes, you refine it, you revisit it, you come back, you take this out, you add that. So be patient with the process of writing down what your personal brand statement is. I love this one by a lady called Madeline Sklar. And I think she does an excellent job of putting together her personal brand statement, because it speaks to her personality, it speaks to her competencies, it speaks to her expertise and so on. I'll read it out for you quickly. I am very passionate about one thing: teaching people, entrepreneurs, marketeers, etc., how to achieve rockstar results with their social media, especially Twitter. And I inspire them to take action and just do it. I achieve this by developing strategies that work. My motto is work smarter, not harder. I live by this and I teach it to others every day. So you'll see her personality comes out with words like passionate and rockstar results, okay? It tells you what kind of a person Madeline is. So as you craft your personal brand statement, think about what elements you can bring into your message that will help communicate who you are. How do we now solidify our personal brand? How do we begin to communicate? Somebody saying something? Oh.
I think we just need to mute Ntokozo.
I love that purple wall. Who's purple? Yeah, Ntokozo's purple wall. It's a beautiful purple wall. So how do we now begin to firm up this thing called personal brand? Now that we have the building blocks, we have an idea of what a personal brand statement is, how do we bring it all together? First step is to know yourself. This is what Phumzile referred to earlier as your inner work. You have to do the inner work. You can't skip this step and say, I'm going to get a website, I'm going to get a logo, I'm going to do all these amazing things, I'm going to speak here, I'm going to speak there. And in the meantime, you don't know who you are. So take time to reflect on your values, your dreams, your ambitions. What do you really, really want in life? Not what your parents told you should want, not what your manager told you should want, not your husband has told you should want. What do you really, really want? Okay, make a note of that. What are your spiritual beliefs? What do you believe at your core? What drives you? So this is the inner work that we all have to do for us to build a successful personal brand. And if we skip this step, we're going to wear ourselves out at some point. We're going to feel like something is missing here. Or you'll just realize, wait a minute, this actually isn't me. This is something that I read in a textbook, and then you have to come back and do this work. So take the time to do the inner work.
Is it that why, sorry, is it why maybe sometimes when you're asked, for example, who are you, or what do you do, or what does your company do, you like taken aback and think first? Is it because you have not done perhaps that, checking on knowing yourself? Who are you? What are you about?
I would say so, definitely, to a certain extent, because you are the brand of the organization, and if you're not connected to what it is that you do, then you'll struggle to communicate, because you'll just be trying to project something that isn't really true to who you are. So the more you do the inner work, is the better position you'll be in to speak confidently, because you'll understand how this organization ties to the authentic you, why this business is important to you, why you believe that your company can make a difference to other people. So definitely, it links to how you portray the work that your company does.
Or maybe it could be linked as well, to the fact that we spoke about earlier about women not being confident, because you see that as well. I think Phumzile can attest to that. When you interview as well people, you will see that with, the male species, it comes easy, for example, for them to say even things I think that maybe comes from experience, but not what they have done, because as you work with them, you can see that actually they're not competent in what they told you that they could do, but they said it.
Yeah.
But with women, you will see that when you ask them, even with me, maybe perhaps you first roll your eyes, so you look at the ceiling. It's not comfortable for you to it's as if like we see in the media and you see in the social or the cyberspace. It's like, no, Phumzile is bragging. I know Phumzile is bragging. How come we don't know she's bragging? But in actually fact, it's something that she's good at. But because we're not used to talk about it or to talk about ourselves or the achievements, we normally always say as women, if you feel as well, I don't know, as women, it will be like, I think people will know that with me, if we have, but you don't talk about the I, which I think for me carries a lot of weight, because the I, it's actually really, it's you. You're not talking about other people, because we tend to like sometimes maybe, you were managing, or maybe you were not, but you just, there's a little part. But you find the woman was actually, or the person was, even maybe with men, some men it applies. They were actually the ones who did that. The person is actually the one, but it's a we. Maybe these two are linked, which I don't know how, perhaps as you're talking to us and we're hearing what the impact of that is, will help us quite a lot.
And I think what you're saying, Swangile, I think it stems from the time that we're little girls. As the girl child, we're given more of a structure of who we should be. People are always telling women how they ought to be. So as we grow up, we carry some of that residual into our adult lives, because we're told a girl must dress like this, a girl mustn't do that, a girl mustn't behave like that, she mustn't speak like that, she mustn't laugh like that. I remember somebody telling me when I was a young girl, you can't climb a tree, it's not for girls. Whereas boys are given free license to explore, to be whatever, to do whatever. And then they carry that into their adult lives. So they find it easier, I think. I think it's one of the reasons that we have this difference as we grow up. So men find it easier then to just articulate freely and openly about what it is they believe they can do, because they have more of an adventurous spirit. Whereas with girls, we as women, we tend to be more timid, like, hey, I mustn't be too much, because a woman shouldn't behave like that. A woman is supposed to be quiet. So if I come out too much, people are going to start saying I'm feeling myself. But ultimately, we all have different personalities. So if you feel that your personality wants to be out there, there's nothing wrong with that, whether you're male or you're female. If you feel you're more reserved, there's nothing wrong with that, whether you're male or you're female. So it's about being true to who we are at our core, as opposed to trying to fit into places that we know this feels constricted, this feels awkward, this isn't me. I see there's messages in the chat. Don't know if it's for what we're talking. Let's have a look here. Okay. He says, Mlingo says, not many employers in particular takes kindly to interviewees making examples about their private lives experiences. As a result, one tends to downplay their achievements, experiences, and only want to focus on professional achievements, experiences. And most of the time, those professional experiences, achievements are not many as compared to personal ones. Now, this is a great, great statement, especially when you don't have a long CV of experience. So how do you now package yourself in such a way that you can draw from your personal experience and make it relevant to the professional space that you want to play in? So a good way to do that, Mlingo, is to see what skills, what expertise, what competencies you've learned from your private, your personal experiences that now apply in a professional context. That's the best way that you can do it, because if you talk about your personal experiences in a way that is not relevant to what it is that you're going for in a professional space, then of course there'll be a disconnect. They'll be like, but why are you telling us that you used to enjoy mountain climbing? What does that have to do with you applying for this job? So in mountain climbing, for instance, you learn things like resilience. You learn about perseverance. You learn not to give up, no matter how hard it gets. And definitely those are attributes that employers want when they're looking for people. So it's just a play on language, a play on words for you to craft that. And I can gladly help you with that if that's something that you're struggling with. We could certainly chat afterwards at no fee, of course. So please don't think of me charging. We can talk about how you can craft that so that it speaks to what it is that you want to get into without you sounding now like you're talking about irrelevant things in an interview context. Okay. All right, let's move on.
There's a question from Sia there on the chat box as well.
Oh, did I not scroll up?
Yes, just before Mlingo's one.
Okay, let's see. What does personality profile tools mean? How does it help you know yourself? Okay, so personality profiling tools, questionnaires that you do online that help you understand yourself better. So each and every one of us has aspects of our personality that we're not aware of. So they're hidden parts of ourselves. Perhaps other people may be aware of them. Perhaps we're not aware of them and other people are not aware of them. And there's a wonderful Johari window that has the different quadrants of personalities. So a personality profiling tool will then help you discover parts of yourself that you're not aware of and how you can use those to better build your brand. And it also helps you, it also helps to engage other people as well, people that are close to you that you respect. Ask them questions about yourself. How do I come across? What are the things about me that you think I can improve on? Because most of the time we're great at seeing our strengths, but we tend to have a blind eye to what our weaknesses are. Or conversely, we're great at seeing our weaknesses, but we're not good at identifying what our strengths are. So a profile tool helps you to get into those nitty-gritties of understanding yourself holistically. Okay. So those examples that I've given there, those are some of the major ones that organizations tend to use. And there's also quite a lot of free profiling tools online. So if you just Google personality profiling test, you will get a whole lot of tests that you can do at no cost if you want to keep the costs down, or you can pay for one of these ones. And you'll be actually shocked at how accurate they are. I remember I did Enneagram some years back, and I didn't know that when I walk into a room, at times my energy can be overwhelming for people without me doing anything, without me saying anything. But I just walk into a space, I look at people, and some people feel like, and you're wondering, but Is it because they don't like me? Have I done something wrong? Does this person know me? You know, maybe I can't remember what I did. And then I start panicking. But then I realized after doing the test, okay. So then I started working on how to counter that and make myself come across as a much warmer person, as opposed to certain individuals feeling overwhelmed by my energy, if I can put it like that. So that was a real golden nugget for me in terms of doing the personality profiling test. Okay, let me close this. Okay, my slide doesn't want to move. Okay, there we go. Next is to communicate effectively. An important part of firming up your personal brand is to communicate effectively, to be authentic to who you are as an individual, and to make sure that how you communicate is showing what your personal brand is. And here we're talking about things like, how do you use your voice? What's your body language saying? How are you using imagery in an online context? And you'll note from my presentation, I use a lot of pictures because they say a picture speaks 1,000 words, right? So even with yourself, as you present in an online space, how are you making use of images? What does your voice say about your personal brand? Because you might be there thinking, oh, I'm bold, I'm strong, I'm this, I'm that. But when you speak, it's like you're not there. It's easy for people to forget about you. So how can you use your voice to enhance what it is that you want to communicate about your personal brand? And number 2 is to know your audience. Who are you communicating with? What is it that you want them to know? What do they want to know? And are you going directly to share what it is that they want to know? And did you know that 90% of what you communicate is how you say it? It's not the words that you say. Yeah. The words is only 10%, believe it or not. And you'll notice I'm speaking here to you, I'm using facial expressions, I'm using my gestures, I'm using my voice. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, because all of these things communicate so much about your message.
Yeah, so this is the lesson I learned in my first leadership role, where I really now had a team of people reporting to me. And my boss was like, Phumzile, it's never about the what, it's about the how. And that learning has stayed with me. It's probably what now, 15 years later, if not more. That sometimes you might feel so strongly about it. You might feel I know I'm right, but it's not so much about that. It's about how do you then engage the issue? How do you engage with other people on that particular principle? So yeah, that's very, very, very critical.
Yeah, and just to use a silly example, if you were to say to someone, I love you, versus saying, I love you. Can you see it's the same words, the exact same words, but what was different was the how, right? Yeah. When I was saying it in a convincing way, I closed my eyes, I held my chest, I leaned in. But now if you're looking that way, you're saying, I love you. What message is the person going to get? So it's a silly example, but it's true to communication in any context. It's how you say it. It's what you put into the message, to the actual words that you say.
Yeah. And that's so true. You know, when you say that, you remind me about, in my former employ, we had achieved significant results, and I was invited actually in the dry run of the announcement of the results. And so because my boss was one that was supposed to actually share those results to the media and everybody out there in the country. And, she was saying, yeah, we achieved this, if you can see my face, we achieved significant results and, we have done so well. And, the feedback that we gave, I think it came from me actually. And then I think the CEO was like, that's actually right. I'm saying the way you are saying it, but you are so sad. You look sad.
Yeah.
But you've achieved these results and stuff. And actually, she actually tried now and say, and she put a smile, and there was some gestures as well that showed that you were, and everyone would clap to say, that actually sounds like it. It looks like we've achieved, and you look happy about it, that this is an achievement, from the organization. So actually that reminds, but I didn't know at the time that actually that's communicating effectively to your audience as well. But the feedback, also after that, she came to me and said, wow, I didn't know that I think she took it personal that, I looked like I was angry or I wasn't happy. But I just said, you didn't look happy to be announcing this result.
And it's good that you gave the person feedback, because then it speaks to what we were talking about, personality profiling, in that there are things about ourselves that we might not be aware of, and other people can give us feedback so that we can improve ourselves. So classic example, what you just said of announcing amazing results, but your face is like, you don't want to be there, So very powerful to give feedback. What do you tell yourself about yourself? Sure. This influences what kind of personal brand you put out there. And the person who's doing the telling, obviously you're one person, right? But within us, we all have that voice that's constantly telling us something. Some people might call it your spirit, your intuition, your still small voice, the devil, God, whatever. But there's constantly a voice within you that's telling you something. And what do you constantly hear in your head about yourself? Another word is ego. Some people call it the ego is constantly giving us, excuse me, the ego is constantly giving us messages. So I would like you to please create awareness for yourself about the messages that you constantly hear in your head. And it might be positive. It might be things like, I'm amazing. I can do this. I'm incredible. Or it might be, I can never, ever do this. I suck at what I do. Sooner or later, I'm going to get caught out. People are going to see that I'm a fake. I am terrible. I am just such a horrible person, And it may be something in between. But once you create that awareness, you can now begin to look at ways of how to change that voice, of how to work through whatever that voice is telling you so that it can become more of what you want it to be. Okay, I see we have a comment. Let me go to the chat. I wish the young job seekers were part of this audience. It would help them with the job interviews, writing the cover letters, and just differentiating themselves from the crowd. I'm really enjoying the session. Oh, that's wonderful to hear, Mlingo. Well, we can always chat. Me and Pumzile can always chat and see if there's a need to do another session. Perhaps that's something that you may want to focus on entirely in terms of young job seekers, how to craft your message, how to answer questions, the all-important tell us about yourself question in a job interview, what to write in your CV, because I'm seeing some terrible CVs out there. And it's one of my passions, helping young people craft a CV, a cover letter that speaks true to who they are and what it is that they offer. Because for a lot of us as well, English isn't our first language. So now you have to write about something that you're not comfortable speaking. Now you have to write and sell yourself. So it can be quite challenging. So definitely there's room for us to do something around that. And I'm glad that you're enjoying the session. That's great feedback. Next is to increase your digital footprint. We kicked off the session by each and every one of us Googling ourselves, I hope, because like it or not, the age that we live in, our digital footprint speaks louder than our actual presence in a place. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm going to meet someone, I always Google them first. I'm like, who's this person I'm going to meet?
Yeah.
And I find out about them.
Very true.
especially when it comes to business opportunities. I'm like, okay, what does this person like? What kind of a restaurant would they prefer? You know, would they like somewhere chilled and quiet, relaxed? Or would they want somewhere vibey and noisy? So social media can give you so much about a person before you actually meet them. So first up is to understand which spaces you want to be in and why. There's no use in you being everywhere just for the sake of it because, I know now TikTok is trending. I'm going on TikTok. Twitter's always been a big thing. Let me just jump on Twitter. That's not the right approach. You need to understand for yourself as a personal brand, what are the spaces that I want to play in? And why do I want to play in those spaces? Why do I want to put myself out there? And what will my message be when I'm in that particular space? I remember when TikTok came out, my daughter was like, Mom, you need to be there. Yo, people are making videos. All the people that you look up to, they're on TikTok. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I went on TikTok and ladies, I couldn't make sense of this thing. I hung around there for a little while, for some months, and I was like, this isn't for me. You know, I've tried it and it doesn't work for what it is that I want to achieve. So even with you, if you feel that you need to be in a space, take time to understand it and see if it works for you, if it gets you the objectives that you want to meet. So personally, I'm on Facebook and I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram. And my main focus is LinkedIn because that's where my potential clients sit. That's where my community of coaches are. So I get to learn from them and I also get to promote my business. So when you look at the spaces that you want to be in or the places that you are already in, ask yourself, why am I here? Because bear in mind, social media takes hours of our time, especially for people that are addicted to it. You'll be there day and night commenting, posting, but what is your message? Why are you there? How is it adding value to you? And whatever space you find yourself in, make sure that your profiles are aligned. Don't be a different person on Facebook, a completely different person on Instagram. You've got a different name here, different name there, unless it serves your bigger purpose. But generally speaking, it's ideal to be consistent in all the spaces that you play in and what message that you want to communicate within those spaces. Okay? How do you look? The way you dress, before you say a single word, it communicates things about you. So what messages is the way you look communicating about your brand? Because you might be thinking in your head, I have this wonderful, amazing brand. This is who I am. This is what I do. But when people look at you, they feel there's a disconnect. So ask yourself, does the way I look communicate what I want it to communicate? And if it doesn't, what can you fine tune? What can you adapt? What can you change so that you're more aligned with your brand and what it is that you want to get out there? And I know in certain environments, we're required to dress a certain way, right? But within those requirements, there's always a bit of wiggle room for you to say, okay, if I work in a corporate environment, how can I dress in such a way that I'm corporate, whatever that means, but I'm still true to who I am? I remember I once worked in a company. It was incredibly formal. You had to be dressed to the nine every single day. And at that time, I didn't mind, right? Every now and then, I would dress like that person. But then it got to a point where on the days that I decided I don't want to dress like this, I'd be called aside. Like, Mayo, you know, we have an image to maintain. You need to present the organization's values through the way you dress. And from that moment on, I started looking for other opportunities. I'm like, I can't do this. And it might seem like a small thing, but to me, it was everything because I didn't want somebody dictating to me how it is that I have to be. So I made the decision to leave because I had switched it up, changed it here and there. But because of that and many other reasons, I was like, you know what, this environment isn't for me. So even with yourself, what kind of clothes do you wear? and what message are those clothes giving about you? Now, I'm not saying take out 20,000 rands and go and buy a new wardrobe. That's a luxury that many of us perhaps don't have. But with what you have right now, how can you best work with it to communicate who it is that you are? When I started my brand building, I remember the day that I decided I need to take professional photos for myself, for my website, what. So I'm like, the way I am, it's not enough. I need to do stuff, So I set about buying expensive clothes, taking 10 hours to do my hair, changing my hairstyle all the time, putting on layers and layers of makeup. What do they call it? Banana powder, contouring, what? That's a lot of money. I would only wear, what was that foundation? I would only wear Estee Lauder foundation, nothing else.
Is that like the top of the range?
At that time, it was for me. For me, it was like only Estee Lauder, And my perfumes, what were my perfumes? I think I only wore, I've forgotten the brand. But anyway, everything had to be up there for me because in my head, this is what an executive coach is all about. This is the image you must portray, right? I got lost in trying to be myself, but at the same time, taking on what I thought the world wanted me to be. And I looked up to people like Oprah and Naomi Campbell and Tyra Banks at the time, and they wear heavy makeup. So I thought, okay, I'm also going to do this makeup thing. And then one day, I was walking through a shopping mall with a heel this big, and my feet were sore. And I was like, Mayo, why are you doing this? And the answer that came to me, it didn't satisfy myself. And it triggered a whole journey of remembering who I am, of going back to my source. And after that, some months later, I began a spiritual journey. And these things then became less, and I see there's a hand, Khomotso, I'll come to you. These things then became less and less important, and more of me came to the fore. And I realized on my spiritual journey that actually, what do I really, really, really want in this life? What's important to me? And I realized I just want to inspire people. I just want to uplift people. And all of these things, as nice as they felt at that time, they felt like it was fake to me. They felt like I wasn't being true to who I am. Now, I'm not saying that everybody out there who wears makeup must stop wearing makeup and be true to themselves. No, I'm just saying be authentic to what feels like a fit to you, that's true to what your inner voice is telling you about yourself. Because with me personally, I just felt like this is too much. I can't be spending 1.5 hours before I leave the house. I can't be walking in a mall with heels this big. It's not what I truly want at my core. I just want to be myself. So I took everything off, started a journey of dreadlocks, and here I am. And I feel comfortable and even more confident, because I think with makeup for me, it gave me like kind of a shield to hide behind. Whereas now, this is me. This is who I am. Khomotso. Yes, go for it, Khomotso.
Let's see you on video, Khomotso.
I'm struggling with the network here.
Oh, okay, no problem. No problem.
Oh, yeah. I've noticed that most of the time we are focusing on young people for personal development and all that. And I realized that most of the pensioners are somehow losing confidence as they grow up. Like the way they are wearing, they are no longer putting up makeups. Even when someone meets a partner, they don't.
I can't hear you anymore.
I think she did say even when she joined on the side that she's struggling with network, but maybe perhaps you can answer maybe the gist of just a little bit that we've got about pensioners.
Was she asking a question about branding on the older generation?
Yes.
Yeah. But okay, I didn't get where the issue was. She was saying that she feels that the older generation is losing confidence. I didn't get that.
Or perhaps
Hello?
you can type it.
Are you back,
in the chat.
Kumuto?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah, there's a problem of network here. Like an elderly person, when he find a partner, they don't see themselves as going and sign and be married couple. They feel that they are old, they cannot go and marry, or they can't do a function like that. What causes that, and how can we encourage pensioners to take care of themselves and not look down on themselves because they are old? Some of them, they think that now they are becoming a bit useless to something like that. So how do we encourage them to come back to life and enjoy their life to their fullest?
The first step that I would
Did you say
take,
pensioners?
yeah,
Okay.
I heard
All right.
pensioners.
Yeah,
older.
okay.
The first step that I would take is accepting your body and accepting that you're aging, because I think that to a greater extent, society is designed to make older people irrelevant, right? So once you hit 63, 65, they call it retirement, as though you're not going to exist anymore and you're done with living. So a great level of acceptance needs to come that, okay, I'm 65, I'm 70 or whatever, my body isn't what it used to be, my skin isn't what it used to be, but I love myself. And if I don't love what I have and who I am, what's the problem? So again, it goes back to doing that inner work and creating self-awareness of thoughts and beliefs that are not serving you as an individual, and understanding that there's a different way of seeing yourself, that you still can go for walks, you still can eat sensibly, go to the spa, do your hair, or whatever it is that makes you feel good about your body. But definitely it begins with accepting that this is my body. I am old, whatever that means. I'm a bit older, I'm mature, but I'm okay with being mature. I'm not resisting and thinking, oh my gosh, my life is over. I've got nothing to do. I've got no value to bring to the table, etc., etc. That's how I would go about it.
Okay. Maji, I think I saw your hand up.
The common one is that people are trying to be something that they've been told they should be. And then they get lost in trying to find that something, because people will always tell you what you should be. And the second one is being confident that they are enough, that where they are, who they are, they have something of value to offer. So when we understand that the way I am and the competencies, the skills, the experience, the expertise, the way I look, etc., etc., it is enough, then all the other pieces become much easier in terms of building the personal brand. So again, it goes back to the internal work, building up that authenticity. And I can't overemphasize that enough, in that we have to be authentic. And the next slide also answers your question, in that a challenge is people are not consistent. They do things differently, they show up differently, they want to please people, so they get lost in all these different spaces that they find themselves in. But as human beings, we're creatures of habit, and when we see somebody appearing consistently, we're more likely to connect with them, to understand what it is that they're all about and what it is that they represent. But if you're talking different things all the time, people won't understand what it is that you represent. They won't be able to connect with you. And you'll see on the screen these beautiful pictures of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. She's the Director General of the World Trade Organization. And you'll see that in all of her shots, she appears so consistently, just in terms of the way she looks. We're not going to get into what she talks about, but in terms of looks, which is our topic right now, you'll see it's always a matching set of necklace, earrings, it's the turban, it's the African print material, and it's a certain kind of style if you look at the cut of her outfits. So wherever we appear, it's a good idea to be consistent in whatever spaces that we're in. Be consistent in those spaces. Do you have any other comments? Hands up.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 And from what you're sharing, it sounds like that's what he wants to communicate. So he's being true to himself, because if he started out as this person who speaks vulgar language and he found that, okay, this is me, I'm just going to be rude, I'm going to be offensive, that works for him. So in essence, he's built a personal brand around that. So I'm not understanding the question maybe, but from what you've shared, it's like he's doing what he wants to do. He's being authentic to who he is, and it's working for him. Albeit rude, vulgar, human rights, people are complaining, but it's working for him. Yeah. Or unless I missed the question. Yeah. Mm, yeah. But I suppose that's an assumption we're making, that he's following the people. I mean, I don't know who you're talking to, but for me, it sounds like he has found that being this vulgar person works for him. And so he's continuing with it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been this vulgar person. So the fact that he's doing it, he started out doing that and it's working for him, then he's running with it, because now people are trying to change him, to make him quieter, or he's tried to tone himself down. But he's found that, okay, this isn't me and it's not working for me. It's not working for my business. So he's continuing what he's always done, which is being vulgar.
So I hear what Maji is saying, and I wanted to put it in a different way, but it actually leads back to the point that there will be instances. For example, you are an entrepreneur, you have now gone into this work and you have established what your authentic self is, and you, as such, you have translated that into your brand. As such, you are communicating that through your values, right? And then it happens that we are living in a world that might have a different set of rules, which it happens, right? You go and you are requested by this corporate to come and do certain work, and you're finding that this corporate setting as an entrepreneur, it's not aligned to who I am, to my brand and certain values. In such instances, how do you handle it? I think it has often. I have come through projects where I had to walk away because they were just not aligning to who I am, how I do business, how I love to be perceived. But that is not always the case. So for entrepreneurs, how does one handle that? What has been your experience in such instances?
So you've mentioned the extreme outcome, in that if it's not aligned, walk away. And I think many of us have done that at some point as entrepreneurs. But in spaces where, in spaces where you're unable to walk away and perhaps you need the money more than you need to live up to whatever it is that you feel, I've found that there are ways of operating within a closed environment. There are ways of you being true to who you are. And I've seen this, for instance, there was a lady that I was coaching, and she's a Christian woman. She believes in prayers. She believes in talking about Bible verses very often as you interact with her. And to some people, you might be thinking that, no, but we're here to work. We're not here to talk about Jesus. But somehow, because she's true to herself, she found a way to do it. So through her doing it often, the team that she works in is now accustomed to having prayer sessions, to praying for the team before difficult projects embark. But I think at times we're so fearful of showing who we are, and we think that, oh no, I can't do that here. I must just be this thing. And then we close up. But I guarantee you, the more you're true to yourself and the more you're not afraid to show yourself, is the more people will be like, it's actually who she is. And they'll begin to accept you. And in the beginning, it'll feel strange. It'll feel difficult. But if you never try, if you never put yourself out there, you'll never, ever know. So my take on it is that if you're in a space that you feel your values are compromised, the only option may be to leave. But the other option is, how can I integrate who I am into this context that I find myself in? And it is possible. It's challenging, but it's very much doable. I've seen it.
Yeah, so it is possible to almost, to the word you're using, integrate how you, without self-betrayal.
Yeah.
But there are instances where you might not be able to do that. But it's a personal process, it's a personal journey where you have to make that decision on a personal level to feel good. Okay, for example, the one that Maj is using, if the guy believes that I'm not authentic to myself, but I can't walk away because if I change who I am and stop cursing, I'm going to lose the following. I'm going to lose the money. As such, I have to stay. It's a personal decision that you have to make at the end of the day, to say, okay, are there certain things or certain, levers in my branding that I can leverage so that I remain true to myself? I don't feel like I'm now completely betraying myself for the sake of the audience or for the sake of money. But at the end of the day, if you feel now, okay, now this is where my bottom line is, this is where my threshold is, I cannot compromise further than this. You have to make that decision. It's a personal process.
Yeah, but I think maybe perhaps to what Maji is saying, this person created this image, communicated this way originally. And, his audience, he acquired or gained audience and viewership in that way. So people like what he was doing of cursing and, all the stuff. But now perhaps he got also, because you do have feedback. People like, but no, you swear you do this and stuff. Or also maybe because he wanted to change. But as he changed, like you are saying, I think maybe he needs the viewership for the money more than any other thing. He can't change. But perhaps the other thing that we don't do well as well is that when you become authentic to yourself, you need to know that it also needs for you to do some work. Maybe he will lose the viewership for some time, but some people he'll gain some other audience who like what he does. But because maybe for the 2 or 3 weeks or whatever days that he ran, so he lost viewership, then he said, because we obviously value you by your viewership in the social media platform. So as a people, I think as we build our brand, we want the brand as well, or the community too. We want to to see viewership at that particular time or win at that, but people get used and acclimatized to your brand gradually. Sometimes it's not just instantly. So that's what maybe as a people, as we build our brands, it's not overnight, what I see. And as you were talking to us, trying back to, recall people getting into, you'll be like, oh, this one dresses like this. Oh, but what is this? But you get, because this person is consistent, like the screen, the slide that is here on us. If you are consistent, you continue to do that. People, you get people that come along, and you attract others as well, perhaps that would like that brand. So in Maji's case, I see that this person started as this, people liked it, and those who liked it are loyal to you. If you change, obviously you lose them. That's what, for me, in my personal view, it's what I see.
And if the choice is, this is now who I want to change to be compared to how I started, it will come at a price. And that's why I keep on stressing it's a personal decision. Absolutely. It will come at a price. But if you remain consistent to what you guys have already said, you remain consistent, you will start building a followership base of a different audience now.
Absolutely.
But the process won't be easy. It might be painful. You might lose money. You might lose audience. You might lose that. It will come at a price, but eventually it will pick up again. So I'm now talking from a point of view of an entrepreneur, because we said sometimes you started the business, you just started the business, you just needed to go. And then people start aligning to you, to how you started. You didn't even think too much into who you want to portray, your brand, etc. But as you mature in this entrepreneurial space, you start now thinking, I don't want to associate with this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. This is a different way I want to position myself as a brand. Certain people will start feeling alienated. Certain clients might feel, what are you doing, etc. So that transition might be very painful. But if you keep at it, you will start picking up again, and you'll start then aligning and attracting the very people now you are saying, I want to now position myself this way.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. And the bottom line, to answer, I see Tlaeke on the screen. You said Maji.
Maji, yeah.
Maji. The bottom line for me, Maji, to answer your question is, we have to be true to our values, because there's a saying that goes, what does it profit a man to gain the world, but to lose his soul? So how much of yourself are you willing to give up for the pursuit of money? And as an entrepreneur, and as individuals, I suppose, as humans, at various points in our life, we have to make choices that will either make us become more of who we say we are, or they'll detract us and take us on another path. So with the example that you used, the gentleman, he wants to make money, but at the same time, people are complaining that he needs to tone it down. So for him, then the decision would be, do I want to pursue money at all costs? Is money the single most important thing to me? Or morals, ethics, values more important to me? And then it comes down to what Phumzile said about making that personal choice for yourself.
Right. Okay, so it was a nice longish one. Let us see, how many more slides do you want to go? Do you still have to go?
How much time do we have?
We need to wrap up before 11, so we are 10:51.
Okay, awesome. So we've spoken about consistency, and one of the things that we've touched on already is that fear holds us back from building powerful personal brands, because we're most of the time worried about what will people say. If now I think I'm going to build this brand, they'll start saying I'm feeling myself. But the wonderful thing about fear is that regardless of how you think and what you feel, you have the ability to take action in the presence of your fear. And this wonderful tool that we have as human beings is called free will. And we need to exercise that, because it's our right of agency over ourselves. So no matter what people are saying, no matter what reservations you have the ability to choose what it is that you want to do. You have the power to live a life by design. we're different from animals and that animals can only be animals, right? You see, Lily the lion here, she can't wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm tired of hunting. I'm tired of kudu, is it giraffe? I'm tired of running around in the fields. I'm going to buy a gun and I'm going to shoot kudu, going to store them in a fridge, and I'm going to live in peace for at least 1 month, right? She can't do that because she's driven by instinct. But you, ladies and gentlemen, you have this wonderful thing called free will, where you get to become more of whoever you want to be. And when is the best time for us to start being authentic? When is the best time for us to start building these personal brands? You may have guessed it. The best time is right now.
Yes.
Wherever you are in your life, you have the power to choose to decide that from this moment onwards, I am going to build a wonderful personal brand for myself. Because we like saying, I'll get to that one day, someday, next week, next year, when I get a job, when I get a promotion. But the thing is, the future is an illusion, because the future will never announce itself and say, I am now in the future. You are in the future. It will always come as the present moment. For those of us that are in our 40s, in our 50s, 60s that are listening, perhaps 20 years ago, we were saying, one day I'm going to do this, one day I'm going to do that. That moment is right now. Right now is that one day. So even when we look at this moment right now, in the future, when we're looking back, we're not going to see it as a long forgotten thing. We'll remember it as, hey, you know, in that moment, I could have done this, I could have done that, but I didn't do anything. So right now, this is it. You'll only ever experience life as now. And that's the end of the presentation. And for those that want to connect, there are my contact details, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, as I mentioned, and there's my number.
Perfect. We'll also share we'll share this on our socials as well. So for your contact details. Perfect. Thank you so much. Before we close, I've asked you to share one or two of the books as an entrepreneur. And I know today, you know, that's why I said when we started, I love the approach that you take on personal branding. And this personal branding then translate into who you are as an entrepreneur. So it's more intrinsically driven than how we are usually understanding that branding comes really, it must be driven from the extrinsic side, how you look, you know. Those are important things on how you look, how you speak, and how you know, but I say it has to start internally, and then the internal will drive the external that everybody sees. That's how it should be done. It then talks to your business. It talks to who you are as a person as you engage with the world, you know. So I wanted to then hear from you, what are the 2 books or 3 books that you feel have made such an impact on you as you journey through your life as a person and as you journey through your life as an entrepreneur?
The first one, I must say, is The Road Less Traveled by Dr. Peck. I think M. Scott Peck. Yeah, but if you Google The Road Less Traveled by Dr. Peck, you'll find it. And what I love about this book is that it shows everyday people and the madness that we often live in. And when I say madness, I'm not saying we're all psychiatrically imbalanced, but there's certain principles, certain ways of thinking about specific things that we don't realize are actual insanity. And as you read the book, you start seeing bits of yourself when he presents the characters. Because the author of the book is a psychiatrist, and he wrote about some of his patients and the things that we all generally struggle with as humans. So as you read the book, you'll be thinking to yourself, I see a bit of me in this person. That person also has a bit of me. And then by the time you get to the end, you actually realize that you have so many limiting constructs that are holding you back. So it's a great book for you to do the inner work, to do the internal work for yourself. And the second book that has made an immense difference to me is the Bible. The Bible is loaded again with concepts, universal principles that are applicable in an entrepreneurial context. And one of the books that I love within the Bible the most is the book of Psalms. It's helped me get through many, many challenging times. And that's true to the journey of any entrepreneur, right? Is that you will go through challenging times. So the book of Psalms helps give me a perspective that I'm just one small part in this greater, bigger whole. I'm one small component, but equally important, because the same power that drives the universe, that keeps Earth where it is, that brings the stars up, that makes plants grow, that gives soil its power to produce vegetables and fruits, it's the same power that lives in me. And by reading the Bible, I've had the faith, the drive, the belief to do what it is that I do every single day. It just keeps me coming back. And the third book, I'm spoiled for choice now. I love reading. The third book I would say is Driven by Eternity as well. It also speaks to the power of who we are and our spirits, and how we're much, much bigger, better, more powerful than anything we could have ever imagined. Yeah. So I'd say those three books. And you'll note that they're not really entrepreneur, building your skills as entrepreneurs and all those kinds of books, because I firmly believe that the revolution is an inside out one, in that when you change what is inside of you, when you change what goes on in your head and you focus on things differently, everything else outside of you begins to fall into place. But most of the time we have the outside in approach. We want to change the outside world and think that it'll impact us internally, but it actually works the other way around. So those are the three books I would recommend.
Yeah, great. Oh, thank you so much, Mayo. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I knew that these types of conversations will take more than an hour. I thought, 10:30, but usually we know there are some interesting conversations. We take it up to 11. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for such an insightful presentation. We'll definitely be putting your details up, and I think those who are joining in have seen them as well. It's been on the screen for a while. They've taken note. Yeah. So what are the closing comments that we have, Spongile?
Thank you so much. Just to read up the ones on the chats, just two. I think it's a comment from someone who's read, Lingo, who's read the Road Less Traveled as well. So she quoted 2 roads immersed, and I took the one less traveled. And Dukomuso says this was a great presentation and she learned so much. So thank you, Maibo. And this was quite interesting. And the comments that we've got as well on the site is that they need some more of yours. So we probably will be calling you again. We'll be arranging some sessions as well on the site for the ones that I think the audience wants more of your engagement. So, and then Sia says, thank you so much. Very insightful. So from me, I think it's thank you so much. I've really enjoyed the sessions and learned as well with our audience. Thanks so much. It's very interesting.
Great. Thank you, Mayo. Of course, you and I will be talking. There's so much work to be done in this space, but we will be touching base for the future. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thanks to our audience. Well, the video will be loaded on YouTube and anywhere else.